You got it.
Uh, hey, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Hi, Rob Tawab La Atam, which is good evening unto you all. Anakna Wahai Bar Sha'ale, we the Hebrew Israelites, coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach you so called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners, Nachamatam, Kaya Hamalakwa Hashamayim Kwara, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say, Call Layam La, Yahweh
Yahweh
Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rocha HaKadash. While double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us his truth and rule well, and much respect to you, brothers out there pushing his truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
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 So essentially, like we've been going into the spirit, or excuse me, in the spirit, is the 12 tribes. Last week we started with Reuben and we went to Judah, and just in the spirit today or tonight we're gonna go into Napatoya, which is Naphtali, which is the so-called Chileans and Argentinians. So we'll start with Genesis, the 49th chapter and the 21st verse.
Con. Hey, priest, you mind letting me share my screen?
Yeah, I got you.
Con, the water.
Mm-hmm.
He said start at verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
Start at one, or what the parts about the we give the distinction of where the tribes are going to be at, and then jump down. I think that should be verse 1. Yeah.
Con. This is Genesis 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Because pretty much going into Yaiquab, Jacob, was he's our forefather. All right, his sons, he had 12 sons. All right, ultimately going into the 12 tribes of the nation of Yasha'Allah. And it
Mhm.
says that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Pretty much the prophecies concerning the each tribe. Pretty much given the insignias and the marks and the signs. Of how you can characterize and identify the tribes today.
That's right.
Mhm. Want me to skip down?
Mm-hmm.
Read verse 2 and then jump down.
So,
Con. Verse 2, it says, Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Con. Skipping down to verse 21, it says, Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, when you go into Naphtali, all right, in Hebrew, Bahalashman Kwadasha will be Napatoya, all right, which goes into my wrestling. Um, could you get in the blue letter, Baba Kusha?
Con. Con is Napatoya.
The root word it says pathol, which when you go into that word for pathol, it's going to say to twist, to wrestle. So this is pretty much pursuant to the prophecy in Genesis Barashith chapter 30 and verse 8, where pretty much Rachel and Leah had that competition. That's essentially where Naphtali gets his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You want me
going
to get
back,
that?
No, you go ahead, priest.
kind, and then going back just to go into some of the breakdown of what this verse gets into, where it says how Naphtali is a hind let loose. All right, the hind let loose meaning that they're a nomadic people. That they move around. A lot, and also going into the hind let loose being how that's representing them being brave and unruly because you have what they call the gauchos, which are the South American cowboys, man, and they're very bold and unruly people because when you look at the cowboys, all right, how they be riding them, the wild bull or not wild bulls, the wild, uh, the horses, like they be doing the rodeo shows and all that. You gotta have a particular spirit to be able to do that, and that's part of the culture, man. You try, you got
Mm-hmm.
anything you want to add to that? Will go ahead too.
Con. No, yeah, I got this from Wikipedia. Just gaucho. It says a gaucho is a skilled horseman reputed to be brave and unruly.
Mm-hmm.
The figure of the gaucho is a folk symbol of Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, the southern part of Bolivia, and the south of Chilean Patagonia. It says gauchos became greatly admired and renowned in legend, folklore, and literature, and became an important part of their regional cultural tradition. So yeah, just added to that point, pretty much they were revered as being brave and unruly.
Hmm. And then it says how he giveth goodly words, because when you go into the Argentinians and the Chileans, all right, they're very, hospitable and nice people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they speak, very uplifting. Okay, and even when you look at the capital of Argentina, that word literally, the capital is Buenos Aires, which means good airs or fair winds in Spanish. So that right there is just the indicator to let you know that, like I said, these people are very, loving and good people. All right, they
Hmm.
have good attitudes. When you deal with them, you can see that they give off a very friendly energy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Con,
Could you get that word Baba Koshaf for goodly?
con.
Just to add to Priest's point, that they're very peaceable. When you read about so-called Chileans and so-called Argentinians, they're very peaceable in their words. And then also going into the goodly words, you go down just a little bit. It says beauty, goodness, goodliness. You scroll down some. It says beauty, elegance of words. Pretty much going into how they speak. When you look at the Chilean and the so-called Chilean and the so-called Argentinian dialect, it's a very they have very good slang. It's like out of this world. It's very immaculate. When you compare it to you know the world as a whole. We actually got some edification that's going into that. Could we get the article, Uncle Shah?
Real quick, let me add to
Uh,
you,
Hmm.
because you go on this website, afsus.org, and it goes into communication style in Chile. It
mm,
says greetings are considered very important in Chile. When arriving at social gatherings, it is customary to greet every person individually. Generally, Chileans are emotive speakers, but use an indirect form of communication.
mm,
Chileans tend to avoid conflict and will often tell other people what they believe they want to hear to avoid confrontation. Chileans tend to keep much less personal space and will often touch another person's arm or back while speaking. Physical contact is perceived as a sign of friendliness, and public displays of affection are accepted. In Chilean culture, maintaining eye contact demonstrates sincerity and genuine interest during the conversation. So this, just adds to what we talked about earlier about how they said they speak, goodly words, beautiful words, man. Like I said, they're all about having an uplifting spirit, man. Okay,
Hmm.
so like I said, when you go over to Argentina or Chile, you're about to be greeted, all right, with true hospitality, man. Versus the rest of the world. So this is further going into that's one of the givings, signs to let you know that that's the children of Israel, man.
mm.
Con.
I had something to add to that as well. The goodly words. It says because pretty much when you break that word down, pathal, it goes into a wrestling and twisting, but also like with their words. It says the pa goes into words and napatoya. The pa goes into words because you speak with your mouth. All right, the tha goes into tawa, which means a sign or an outline, and then you got la ma, which is a staff. That's authority. So when you break that word down, you got words, outline, authority. Because again, they're very peaceable. All right, and they're also very elegant and good with their words. But it says, Pathol, words outline authority, crafty with words. It says, goodly words, Chileans take liberties with Spanish and change words to suit their preferences. It says, has a different flavor. They use different intonations and rhythms. Learning Spanish in Chile is tough, so if you was to go to which if you want to speak on it as well, Yeshai, but when you if you were to speak, to so-called Chilean, it would be very difficult because their version of Spanish is very difficult.
Yeah, and I have an article going into that too because the way uh, Naphtali speaks is pretty much they speak Spanish, but like some of their slang, they mix in some of their native language or their
Uh,
what they call indigenous language into it.
Kind.
Ebonics.
Right.
Yeah, like I can add to you because it's just on the same site dealing with the official language. Just adding to what you brothers are saying. It says the official language of Chile is Spanish, and some people speak English, German, or Mapudungun, the
Yeah.
language of the Machu Picchu, or how do you say that word? Uh, in Chile, people do not refer to the language they speak as Espanol, but rather Castellano. The two terms
Mhm.
are the equivalent. Castellano just happens to be the preferred term in South America. So, like you said, their language is a little different versus typical Spanish or whatever. Even though they were conquered by the same people as the Northern Kingdom that speak Spanish.
Hmm. They pretty much try to consider themselves to speak the formal Spanish from Spain, but again, they mix in some of their uh, some of their native language, their indigenous language into it too.
Mhm.
But you
I
want
got
me to get that
two.
article?
I got yeah, yeah, I got two if I can.
Okay,
Go
Con.
ahead.
This is Matthew chapter 26 and verse 73. It says, "And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said, Peter, thou surely also art one of them, for thy speech beware of thee." Let me get this in the NLT. And it says, a little later, some of the other bystanders came over to Peter and said, "You must be one of them. We can tell by your Galilean accent." So essentially, if you was speaking to Naphtali, you'll be aware of it, because of how they ultimately use, that words. They use those goodly words. And I also want to get this because you pretty much mentioned the point, priest, that pretty much you could tell that they're children of Israel. This is Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. It says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High, which the Spirit is ultimately going into the Scriptures. The Scriptures let us know that we are the children of Israel. The so-called Chileans and Argentinians, so-called Argentinians, are Napatoya, Naphtali. You know,
Right. And hey, one more, because you made me think about that with that first precept. Just going into the different dialects. That scripture you always bring out with, I believe it was Ephraim, with the
Hmm.
Judges
different
12
dialects.
and 1-6.
Yeah, can you hold that? But I want to, matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
get that first, and I'm gonna get my precept after that.
This is Judge. When we read down, and go straight to the point.
You can just get right to the point.
This is Judges Shawapatyan, chapter 12 and verse 5. It says, I'll go to verse 6. It says, "Then said they unto him, Say now Shabbalah." And he said, Sabbalah, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Yaradan, and there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 40 and 2,000.
And like you always go into, just how Jake will, pretty much, put different slang, or dialect of how they say, the Hebrew. You know,
Mhm.
Jake, you see that now amongst all the tribes, man. All right, you see that amongst so-called blacks. All right, from the different regions, you see the so-called Negro up north have their own version of slang from the New York, Cali, Philly, down south.
Hmm.
Just all different forms of English. Yeshaya, you can bring a testament to the Spanish. It's all
Right.
different forms of Spanish to dealing with whatever region you're from. Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican,
Hmm.
whatever. So Jake, this is in us just to do that because, like the scriptures say, we're the salt of the earth. So we're gonna make everything, flashy, man. All right. So
Hmm.
even just the dialect, we're gonna make it flashy because that's just in us to be able to, have that sauce, man.
Right.
Mhm.
Each Jake got their own style.
Mm-hmm.
Got their own way they say things, got their own way they do things. So of course, they're gonna have their own different flavor and things. But uh, that just goes to show that we're all the same people. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because Jake likes to mix things up. Jake likes to do things differently. Jake up north likes to do things a certain way. Jake down south likes to do things a certain way. And even with like we just going into the vocabulary, the slang, it's all different.
Mm-hmm. But it's all the same language, man. Like I
Right.
Right.
said, it just gives you, that flavor. But I got real quick, Deuteronomy 33 and 23 because I just wanted to feed off of what Yawam was was talking about in that Romans 8 and 16, because this is one of the ways through the Spirit how the Lord has revealed unto us how the so-called, Chileans and Argentinians or whatever you want to call them. All right, how they are the children of Israel, man. This is a clue that the Lord gave us. It said Deuteronomy 33 and 23, and of Naphtali he said, or Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of blessing of the Lord, possess thou west and the south. All right. So one of the ways that we were able to pinpoint this through the Spirit, starting with High Priest Ariel, who's the one that gave us the breakdowns of the tribes. Okay, it said that that they was going to possess the west and the east. Now, when you look at where
So
what happened?
you said east. I was just saying south.
Oh, Salakia, yeah, west and south, Salakia. Um, has said that when you look on the western hemisphere, when you look on the globe, all right, they are on the western side of South Africa as well as on the south. But then looking at it at the larger scale, they're on the western part of the world, the western hemisphere, and also in the south because they're in South America. So just when you look at that landmass, all right, you see how in the area you got Argentina, you got Chile, all right. So then when you go into the customs, as we was going into with the language, the how they act, as we'll get into later, these have to be the tribe of Naphtali, man. And also it says how dealing with the blessing, all right, that land that they're in is very fertile, which is a blessing. All right. Having fertile land is a blessing from the Lord. So when you go into the agriculture, the food, all right, they're a very, a rich country. That's why these
Mhm.
Edomites went over there and pillaged them, you know. That's why they got conquered by the conquistadors because Esau saw, all right, what goodly things they had over there in that land, man, which is why he took it over.
Hmm.
But y'all got it.
I was looking at certain videos online going into that land, and pretty much they were saying it's like very fertile. It's almost like how it looks like in Sweden,
Yep.
like very rich, very green. Water, lakes, like even the climate is very like is very very beautiful, right? And even
I
they
got.
have like this whole area right here, Patagonia, right? When you look
Con.
that up, that whole region is like very fertile, very beautiful too.
I want to get that word for. I want to get that word for. It said. It says favor in Deuteronomy 33 and 23, and it's ratazon, and it says pleasure, delight, favor, goodwill, acceptance, will, goodwill, favor, acceptance. I'm gonna skip down into the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon. And it says delight, satisfaction, a delight, that which one is delighted. So essentially, Naphtali was the Lord was delighted to give that land to Napatalia, but it says will, pleasure. It says use the wicked pleasure, and that's a spirit because ultimately, Esau went down and um, pretty much moved into that land, because I believe the conquistadors, when you go into Argentina and Chile, um, Naphtali has moved out of those lands for the most part. Now it's just like straight Edomites. They pretty much the wicked used it for their pleasure, and it says use of wicked pleasure and wantonness. And it says goodwill, favor as of a king. It says especially of the Most High. Says in the time in which one may be received to favor. And it says metatonically benefits. So that land is it has a lot of benefits and is very beneficial for those that
Right.
are inhabiting that space.
Now let me expound on that. So just dealing with Argentina. So this is from the AI overview. It says Argentina is a rich country with vast fertile land, natural resources, and potential for renewable energy. So it just goes into a few things. It says the Pampas are a region of thick, dark, uh, humus-rich soils that are highly productive for agriculture. It says the northwest provinces of Mendoza and San Juan are home to most of Argentina's grape vineyards, which are used to make wine. Uh, Tucumán, Salta, and Juju, I believe how you say that. The warmer provinces are the sugarcane growing region of Argentina. Dealing with the natural resources, Argentina is rich in lithium, shale gas, and shale oil. It has an abundant of solar and wind energy resources. And then agriculture wise, Argentina is the leading producer of grapes, which are used for the wine, sugar cane, and cotton. And then also dealing with Chile, it says Chile has rich avo- uh, alluvial soils in the central region and transverse valleys of north central Chile, but soil quality varies by region. And so dealing with the rich soils, Central Valley, which is where the alluvial soils develop over fluvial volcanic deposits, make them rich in minerals and organic matter. And then transverse valleys, alluvial soils, same thing. So in the north central Chile. So both these lands, all right, are high, pretty much in resources, which is why, like we say, Esau Edom, went and pillaged the shit out them and put them in slavery. Because, like Yeshaya, I believe you're gonna go into how, they pretty much were put in slavery by the conquistadors as well.
Con,
If
con,
you want to
con,
touch on that real quick,
con. Yeah, I can touch on that. Let me get this real quick. I want to touch on this real quick.
Did it pause?
Yeshaya might have froze.
Okay.
While the brother's getting that, I'm gonna grab this real quick.
Okay.
You might, if you gotta call him real quick to see if he's still on.
Okay.
Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33. It says, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." All right. And just going into as the when we get the brother back on the screen, Lord willing, he's gonna touch on, but and the children of Israel and the children of Judah being the northern and southern kingdom, all right, we are all oppressed by the same oppressor, which is the Edomites. All right, because as we're going to go into, okay, the conquistadors, all right, they went over to that land over in South America and pretty much enslaved them, put them in under them in subjection, just like the same thing they did over here with the Southern Kingdom, you so-called blacks, like Negro, West Indies, and Haitians, man. All right, so we have the same enemy because hey, the curses told us real quick. I can grab that as well. Uh, that these devils were gonna, pretty much come over us. All right. Um, you remember what verse that said in Deuteronomy 28 about the enemy shall come from far, going into Esau.
Uh, I found it.
Con, because like the scriptures saying, we were going to become the head, or it's like they were going to become the head, and we were going to become the tail, because even over there in their own land, all right, they're oppressed by the Edomites, man. You know, they're able to do their daily lives, but they still have to be under subjection of the devil, though, man. All right, so the same you suffer from the same enemy that the so-called black man has, the so-called Native American man has, man. Same so-called Mexican.
You just want me to? I believe it's Deuteronomy 28:49. Let me read it.
Go ahead.
This is Deuteronomy 28:49. It says, "The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand."
Right. It says a nation from far whose tongue you're not gonna understand, because contrary to all you tribes, man, the language that we speak is not our natural language, man. All right. You so-called Argentinians or Argentines and Chileans, your whatever form of Spanish you speak, that's not your original tongue. All right, your original tongue is the Lashawan Kwadash, man. Okay, This is why certain custom that you have, all right, go back to the Bible because you are those people that the scriptures talk about, man. You know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you shot it back.
I'm
You
gonna get
back
that
on
point.
line?
I'm gonna get that point too if I
Salaki.
can.
Go ahead.
Con, this is actually I'm gonna get this right here. This is Yashaya Isaiah chapter 19, and we'll get verse 18. It says, "In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Matazaryam speak the language of Canaan, and swear to the Lord of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction, which ultimately is going into Halashwan Kwadash or Ha'ai Yah, which is the Hebrew, you know. And I'm gonna get this too. This is Bara'ash the Genesis chapter 11 verse 1. It says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech," going into the holy tongue, the Hebrew, because that ultimately was the first language, and ultimately, to reiterate, we're going back to speaking that, because when we look at the different languages, whether it be German, Dutch, Spanish, French, whatever, they all are derivatives of the pure tongue, you see. But we're going back to our native tongue, which is Halashwan Kwadash, and that's the true tongue of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and it's like foreigners, That's why when Jake be in school, Jake used to struggle, with English or whatever language that Jake was into. You see, but ultimately, we understand, and our spirit resonates, with the Hebrew.
Uh, you back on?
Khan. Yes,
Do you
Salaki.
want to put that what you about to go into back on the screen?
Khan. Is it up?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right, Khan. So pretty much I was going into Araucanian Wars. I'm gonna read it again. It says the Araucanian Wars, series of conflicts between the Araucanians, Indians of Chile, and the Spanish conquistadors of the 16th century, and one battle between the Araucanians and independent Chile in the 19th century. So it says the Araucanians, goddamn bro, the peoples divided into three groups. So just going back to that point that we mentioned before, how they're a hind let, how Naphtali is a hind let loose, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're very nomadic, but it says because the Araucanians they pretty much make up a group of like I said of subsects of tribes of Naphtali, but it says the Araucanians make up the Mapuche, the Pichuche, and the Huiche, but it says they spoke the same language and federated for military purposes, but otherwise had little political and cultural unity. So they were pretty much spread out throughout Argentina and Chile. But it says the Araucanians seem to have been somewhat influenced by the pre-Inca peoples and the Inca. The latter were unable to subdue them. So they had conflicts with other tribes, with Peru. What's Peru? Isn't that
I believe
That's
it's Asher.
that's
Asher?
Asher.
Yeah.
So they had battles with Asher. So just more in-house fighting, during those time periods. But it says, and it ain't no. It's almost like whenever we touched on Judah, right? You had the Moors warring with the Jakes down in West Africa. But
Right.
continuing on, it says,
If I could give you a precept behind that, because the reason that is because that's part of the curses that was going to befall
right,
us, where we were going to have that evil eye,
Mhm.
towards our brother.
That's the spirit.
um,
Oh, you got that?
Yeah, I was looking for it.
Kanye, I was looking for it too. But yeah, go ahead, Yeshaya, talk till we find it. Whoever find it first.
all right, Con. It says the Spanish first collided with the Araucanians about 1536 when the expedition of Diego de um, Almagro, which that sounds like bitter.
I got it.
Okay.
Kind, you can get it.
Salaki. Deuteronomy 28 and 54. so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall lead. So just further adding to what you were saying about that, the tribal infighting, because they're all the same people. The Incan, the Mayans, the I forgot the other one. Um, I can't think of it at the top of my head right now, but all these different, so-called Latin speaking, Latin tribes, Latin Spanish speaking countries. These are all people. These are all Israelites infighting with one another, and that's being done like that because we're suffering from the curses.
Right.
Con.
It was the same with you had
Aztecs.
the
That's what it is.
Aztecs and the so-called Mayans, and then you also had Gad, and you had Gad and Issachar. I think back in the time of like the 1800s, 1900s, they was fighting over that land in like Texas, New Mexico,
Yep.
Arizona. So
Right.
Jake always, just because of the curses, Jake has always been, like warring against each other.
Right. Con. Yeah, you even had the Buffalo Soldiers. You had right here what we're reading, right? The Araucanians versus the Incas. Like there's a lot of in-house fighting going on, which cut down the numbers of Jake.
Mm-hmm.
But continuing reading, it says the Spanish first collided with the Araucanians in about 1536 when the expedition of Diego de Almagro penetrated the Chilean region as far south as the Maule River. When Pedro uh, de Valdivia Chile and founded the city of Santiago in 1541, they were met with strong resistance from the Araucanians. In 1550, Valdivia pressed southward and founded Concepcion at the mouth of Bio River. But the but in 1553, he and his followers were defeated by the Araucanians under Lautaro, a chief who had previously spent 2 years in Valdivia's service. Before his escape, Lautaro had learned some of the Spanish language and tactics, and possibly about the manufacture and use of gunpowder. So Jake was warriors, man. They were getting oppressed, they were getting taken down, but they fought back.
That's right.
Just like we've seen in various like the Aztecs, the Mayans, Gad, all these
I think he froze up again.
Okay.
Try to get him back. But you got anything else? Go ahead. I'll send in the message in the group text.
Okay. I wanted to get this article pretty much going into the language of the Chileans. Just get a couple points, some of the examples. But
Which
it
one?
says,
I'll pull it up.
it said, why is Argentine and Spanish so different? Here are 5 reasons.
I got you. 1 second.
Just provide some examples, that we touched on.
All right. Got you right now.
Hey, Salakia, brothers. I'm gonna have to just go on I'm on my phone right now. Esau's fucking up my internet.
All
Okay.
good.
I'm just gonna continue reading where I left off.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, Con.
Matter of fact,
It's a
did you send me the site on the group chat?
Con.
Which site was it? I'll put it back on the screen.
It's the Britannica site.
Okay, Con. I got you. But go ahead. I'll pull it up as you read.
Con. So continue reading. It says after Valdiva's defeat, the Araucanians nearly captured Santiago after the death of Lautaro on the battlefield of a smallpox uh, epidemic among the Indians prevented it. So Jake was going through the curses, going through the smallpox. If a brother can, Baba Kushah, give me Deuteronomy 28, and I believe it's Matter of fact, let me see.
You want verse 22 or verse 21?
No, 28 and 60, 62, I think, or 60.
Okay. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 60. It says, I start from verse 59. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and thy plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Right. Oh, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Finish it out.
God, also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
God. And one of those plagues was that smallpox, right? Whenever Esau came over here, he brought that, that disease with him. But ultimately, just like the Black Plague took down the Moors, you had smallpox take down the tribes over here on this side.
Right.
Right.
Because we can speculate that, hey, that was fucking Esau up, man. You know, hey, we know one thing about our people: we didn't go down without a fight, and these histories that we're reading about of these different wars that Esau had with our people. Don't get it twisted like this was an easy victory, man. Okay, this is the Lord's people that we're talking about, so of course he had to have a divine intervention to help him win.
Con. That's right. Continue reading though. It says, um, another chief, Kapoli Khan, continued the fight until his capture by treachery, and subsequent execution by the Spaniards in 1558. After the Spaniards pushed the Mapuche into the forest region south of Bio, which remained the boundary between the two peoples of the next 3 centuries. Before the end of the 17th century, the Spanish had defeated and assimilated the Pichuche and the Huiche, and assimilated Slovakia, and the Huiche had assimilated into Chile's dominant mestizo population. And that word mestizo just going into a mixture, because you had Jake that was pretty much at this time period, they were kidnapping Edomite women and pretty much, having them as concubines, but you also had some of Esau blending in with our people too, taking some of Jake's women and pretty much having a family with them. But it says in the 19th century, after the Chileans had annexed slices of Peruvian and Bolivian territory in the War of the Pacific, they subdued the remaining Arcanians in the south. It says the Arcanians had begun to raid German-speaking settlements there in the late 1840s, and thus prevented further expansion of the European population. So you had a lot of Germans, and even now, whenever you go into Argentina, you have majority of Argentina is made up by Germans, by these Edomites over
Mm-hmm.
there. But it says after the Arcanians were defeated at the hands of the Chilean army, they signed treaties with the Chilean government and were settled on reservations further to the south, where they have remained quiescent and aloof from the rest of the country. So really, Jake had assimilated into the population. They were pretty much assimilated, but um, some of the some Jakes that stuck to their roots, they pretty much were pushed all the way down south, down to Patagonia or further down south in that region. But I wanted to get that point, just all this to lead up to the slavery. Baba Kushai, if you can get the one where it says the uh, Mapuche slavery from Wikipedia.
I think this is the second one. All right, I got you.
Uh, but it says, because what Jake don't understand is that all tribes went into slavery, man. Like that curse of us going into captivity, that fell upon all the tribes at one point or another.
All right.
Right. But I'm gonna read. it says Khan. Yep. It says the Mapuche slavery was commonplace in the 17th century Chile and a direct consequence of the Arauco War. When Spanish conquistadors initially subdued the indigenous inhabitants of Chile, there was no slavery, but a form of involuntary servitude called encomienda, which that's slavery, man. Involuntary
Yeah, it's
servitude, that's
fucking new
slavery.
speak, man.
Exactly.
Yo, Esau the devil.
Like just calling it under a different name, but really it was indenture. It was a forced servitude, right? But it says, however, this form of forced labor was harsh, and many Mapuche would end up dying in the Spanish gold mines during the 16th century. So exactly what what's his name did, uh, um, Cristobal Colon, when he came to the island over there in Hispaniola. You know, he made them, you know, make mines, gold mines, and it's the same thing. He forced them into slavery only because he didn't
Hey,
really sell them.
also,
Hmm.
no, go ahead, finish your point. It's like you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, you know, only because they didn't sell them, that doesn't mean they weren't slaves. But as we begin to read down, it'll go into them actually selling Jake. But you go ahead, bro.
Now I was gonna say it's the same thing they did with the Southern Kingdom up here. Put them on the plantation, and just like they didn't care about their workers back then over there. Hey, Jake had quotas. They didn't meet. What happened? They got their hands cut off. They got put to death, man. They got whipped. A lot of them ended up dying off of the cruel treatment, so much so to where they had to have a law put in place called the Casual Killing Act, to where the slave masters weren't found guilty for killing their slaves because they beat them to death, man. So
Hmm.
this just goes to show you it's the same people, man. Hey, under a different name, but the same people. Just like it's different tribes of Israel, it's different tribes of Esau as well, man.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And this is all going around the same time period when Jake was currently getting rounded up over there in Africa and getting sent over here.
See,
But it
all
says,
tribes were gonna go into slavery, man. That was the curse we read in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, man. That applies to all tribes, man. All right. So,
right.
like I read earlier in Jeremiah, all right, Judah and Israel shall be oppressed together, man.
Mm-hmm. Time,
I got a precept if I can.
time.
Zayah Shaya, this is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 2. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Now, pretty much, going into, how Jake was enslaved, whether it was Judah, whether it was Gad, whether it was Reuben, whether it was Naphtali, pretty much every tribe was enslaved, by Esau, Edom, or these heathen. Now, I want to continue on to verse 3. It says, and it shall come, excuse me, it says, I'm going to start from the latter, Isaiah 14 and 2. It says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, because essentially, Esau took us captive. So we're going to have them as servants, in the kingdom. And it says, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Pretty much rule over them with a rod of iron, in righteousness. Verse 3. And it shall come to pass in that day, it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, pretty much that rest, going into the kingdom. It says, and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, so pretty much, every, again, every tribe pretty much was in servitude under the heathen.
Time.
That's right.
I'm gonna read a little bit more into this. It says the beginning of formal slavery. So it's saying formal slavery of indigenous peoples, of indigenous peoples, Slovakia, was prohibited by the Spanish crown. The 1598 through 1604 Mapuche uprising that ended with the destruction of the seven cities made Philip III of Spain in 1608 declare slavery legal for those Mapuche caught in war. Rebelling Mapuche were considered Christian apostates. and could therefore be enslaved according to the church teachings of the day. So it says this legal change formalized Mapuche slavery that was already occurring at the time, with captured Mapuche being treated as property in the way that they were bought and sold among the Spaniards. So you see, even they were bought and sold, man, and it was all under the name of Jesus Christ.
Sounds familiar, right?
Right. But it says,
I got
go ahead, bro.
yeah, real quick one, just going into it because, like I said, they were made slaves by what legislation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's Psalm 94:20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? And that's what they did, because here when you're reading this, it's trying to make it sound like Esau was trying to have mercy on him with the way that they're wording this this article on Wikipedia, and then you see the horns come out because once Jake, because like I said, they tried to make it seem like it was a thing to where it wasn't as bad as we know slavery over here in America, but if it would for them to have an uprising, let you know that that shit was bad. So at this point, to where it said that uh Philip the Third of Spain had to make it legal. All right, that means that they had paperwork that they pretty much use the church as another means to sit there and label the Mapuche pretty much as heathen. They
Right.
were heathen that needed to be converted to Christ so they can have their quote unquote soul saved, right? Because you reading this through the line, this is like them calling them savages because they rebelled against them, which is another form of Esau's pseudoscience, man.
Right.
Because you can link this to the Southern Kingdom, like over here they had a term called drapetomania, to where if a slave wanted to run away, all right, they were declared, mentally unstable, because why would you want to run away from a slave master that was providing you with food and a place to stay, man? All right, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the same way that they're trying to show with this. All right, the church had to save these rebels, man.
I got
Right.
precept for you, priest.
You got
It's
it.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 37. It says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." I'm running the back. It's
Mm,
Deuteronomy 28 and 37. It says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb." Now, when you go into this word for proverb, it says mashal, and it says proverbial saying, a similitude. It says a ethical maximum. And let me get this too. This word right here, it says byword. It says shanyana. And it says a sharp cutting word. So pretty much going into, how Jake was called, niggas, spics, stuff like that, the different derogatory terms they call gad, redskins, things of that nature. Then also those that was labeled for the term you just used, the dreptomania. Pretty much Jake was titled those terms. Those was those proverbs and those bywords.
mm-hmm.
Con.
You got it.
Going back, it says legislation made Spanish slave raiding increasingly common in the Arauco War. Mapuche slaves were exported north as far as La Serena and Lima. So Lima, Peru. So hey, Jake was moved around, man. Jake was like Judah. Jake was scattered, man. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it says
Which
Spanish
which
Slake.
further adds to the scriptures, because that's also one of the curses too.
Mm-hmm.
How we was gonna be scattered.
Con. It says Spanish slave raiding played a major role in unleashing the Mapuche uprising in 1655. The uprising took place in the context of increasing Spanish hostilities on behalf of Mastre de Campo Juan de Salazar, who used the army of Arauco to capture Mapuche and sell them into slavery. So during the war, they'll defeat Jake and then they'll put the remaining warriors into slavery. But it says in 1654, excuse me, in 1654, a large slave hunting expedition against Cunco ended in a complete disaster at the Battle of Rio Bueno. This setback, this setback did not stop the Spanish, who, under the leadership of Salazar, organized a new expedition in summer of 1655. That's pretty much the point, though. That's pretty much the point. Just touching on the fact that, hey, Naphtali also went into slavery. All tribes went into slavery when you really go into it. But just touching on Naphtali, right now, you know, just showing you that they're part of the tribes as well. You know what I'm saying?
That's
But yeah,
right.
brothers got it.
Hey, the curses,
That was pretty much
yeah, the
on that.
curses fall on them too.
Uh,
You want the other article on the screen?
Uh, yeah, we can get it. It says, "Why is Argentinian Spanish so different? Here are 5 reasons." Pretty much is going into how Naphtali speaks. Both so-called Argentinians and then also so-called Chileans. I'm just going to touch the key points in that where it says table of contents. It says, go to it. It says
Where do you want to
unique.
start first?
Hmm? Yeah, it
Because I
says
was gonna follow along.
con. From the table of contents, it says uniqueness of the Argentine accent. It says exclusive Argentine Spanish words, so pretty much going into how Jake, uses what they call Ebonics. Sometimes Jake, will merge 2 words together. When you go to the Hebrew alphabet, or excuse me, the Hebrew language, you can merge 2 words together. They do things like that. Jake, even in America, does things like that as well. Merging 2 words together, using words in different contexts and things of that nature. It says exclusive Argentine Spanish words. It says the use of, I believe that's vosotros instead of two, which I believe that goes into like you. And it says
Yeah,
informalities and slang. It says politeness is not our thing, but we understand that it's pretty much going into, that's a figure of speech, because they're a peaceable type of people. But we can also get the other one. I just want to read a couple points, just provide some edification on some of the goodly words.
come on, give me a second.
Okay. Got a couple pop-ups up there.
yeah. One. I also got that article. Also, it goes into a ton of slang that
All right.
that Jake got.
Yeah, could you get that after this?
Con.
Okay. It says, learn how shockingly different Spanish is in Argentina. It says Spanish in Argentina isn't the same as the rest of the world, but it's truly wonderfully unique. Going into, when we got, it said goodly words. That word goodly went into beauty, goodness, goodliness, elegance, craftiness. They're very, very strategic in how they use their words. It says, if you're learning Spanish and you plan to visit Argentina, it's crucial to know the differences to avoid embarrassment. All right, we're gonna skip down. It says, learn how they pronounce Spanish words in Argentina, which I'm just gonna touch on the subtitles. It says intonation in Argentine Spanish versus the rest of the world. All right. Then it says Spanish in Argentina has a different intonation. This kind of intonation is almost entirely unique in the Spanish speaking world. The only other country where they speak Spanish like this is Uruguay, which when you go into Uruguay, that pretty much goes into Ashar or Asher, you know. And which we pretty much use we all use each other's slang, Sometimes Ruben work do stuff that Judah do. We all the same people, you know. So it says
Fine. Like if I can give an example, you got Jake. Like just using the Super Bowl shit for an example. You had Jake all in arms because they had Serena Williams crip walking. On the halftime show, and then I was on Threads, and you had this person bringing out how crip walking really go back to Issachar, the
Hmm.
Chicano culture, you know.
Right.
So that just show you that we borrow from each other.
Right.
That Seawalk.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It says, going down a little bit, it says personal pronouns in Argentina are different than Spain. It says it says Argentinian Spanish conjugation is different, and then it says learn slang in Argentina, which we could touch on the one you had, Yeshaya.
Con. I sent it in the group chat, public shop. You can pull it up because this pretty much this article that's going to be pulled up. It goes into a whole list. Like whoever made this list is definitely from that area because man, they got like almost every single slang word. Some of them I haven't even heard of. Like when you speak Spanish, when you're in Mexico, like over there in Mexico, we have slang terms too, and some of them are alike. But there's a lot of them that are like you could tell that they mixed some of their native language into this. Right. So it says the Chilean slang. It says Chilean Spanish has a multitude of words and expressions that are only used inside the country or only a few of the neighboring countries. It says many go back to the influence of the Quechua and the Mapudungun languages spoken by the native population of the area. It says the following list can only present a selection of the most common words and expressions. It says we have tried to limit this list to true Chileanism and regionalism. They are hard or impossible to find in common dictionaries.
Right, and it show you, if I could add to it, show you that's only something that belong to them. That like that's their thing. It goes back
Right.
to the prophecy, Genesis 49:21. You know those goodly words that shows who Napatoya is.
Uh, It says, in general, we would advise you not to use those words actively. It's too easy to put your foot in your mouth. Often the meaning of a word can depend greatly on tone or context, and that's true. It says it's almost impossible to get those right without much practice. Because I remember I was speaking to this one Jake at work a while back. He was from Chile as well, and he said to me something, and I felt offended, and I was like, "Yo, what the hell?" And then he was like, "Nah, no, in my area, that means because he was saying I forgot what he called me some word I can't remember, and I
Mm-hmm.
in Spanish that's well, at least in Mexico that's offensive, but in their area it's not. It's like an endearing term.
Hmm.
All right.
It's kind of
Hey,
like my bad.
Flat, go ahead, out.
It's kind of like Jake in Baltimore. You know, Jake in Baltimore got that. They kind of aggressive in how they speak. You know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. Jake, like certain areas, like I was listening, my rib was watching some show earlier, and they had Too Short on there, and it was like, yo, because Too Short is famous for using that word bitch, and they was like, why do you use that word like you do? And it was like, I'm from Oakland, so bitch over there don't it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good word. But then you come over here to the south, you call somebody a bitch, bro. We fighting, bro, because that's an offensive word, on this side. So just different things like you said, DC uses certain words like DC call you stupid or fool as like a term of
Yeah.
endearment.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
then you say that down here, that's offensive. So just showing that Jay got that salt, man. I got a precept, just to add to that because this
All right.
shows you this is our people, man. This is Proverbs chapter 1 verse 5. It says, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel." Point verse 6. To understand a proverb and the interpretation and the words of the wise and their dark sayings. Now, I wanted to bring this out because as we're going through and breaking down, the dialect or the slang that using for our people, we're the only people. Jake is the only people that do this. Jake is the only people that really have slang words, man. You don't hear Hamites, especially on the Edomites, these other nations. They speak direct, proper English or
Right.
whatever language they speak. It's only Jake that put that little twang on it and they give it some flavor. Because like the scriptures tell us, I quoted it earlier, we are the salt of the earth, man. All right.
Uh-huh.
So when you go into this word for dark saying, it's H2420. Um, it says a riddle, difficult question, parable, enigmatic saying or question, perplexing saying or question, and then going down to definition D, it says double meaning or double dealing. So hey, Jake has different. You can say the same thing and mean different things, man. That's slang. And then I looked up the definition of slang on freedictionary.com. It says slang. It says a kind of language occurring chiefly in casual and playful speech, made up typically of coinages and figures of speech that are deliberately used in place of standard terms or added raciness, humor, irreverence, or other effect. All right. And that's essentially dark sayings because when you look up, like when Yahweh Shah spoke in parables and dark sayings. So it was different. He could have just spoke straight, but he spoke that way for only those that are in his inner circle can understand. That's pretty much amongst all the tribes. All right. When you're
Right.
amongst the different tribes, they have their own way of speaking that only they understand, man. You know?
Con. Hey, just reading a little bit more on this, this kind of adds to your point. It says the favorite Chilean swear word is huevon, which whenever you look this up, that just means like lazy. Like whenever you like at least with Issachar, if you call someone huevon, like that's an insult. Issachar likes to work, so if you call someone huevon, man, that shit is like calling him like, man, you lazy as fuck. Like saying you lazy as fuck. Like it's insulting to them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But they say it as a term of endearment. As I'm gonna read, it says the favorite Chilean swear word huevon can be intended to sound like a put down. But it says a put down buddy buddy or a term of endearment, depending on the situation. It says the majority
Mhm.
of words and expressions listed are only used in informal communication. So it's all informal, it's all slang. It says extremely vulgar
Yeah.
expressions have additionally been marked. So it's just going into the list of words right here. But again, just adding to that point, if you don't understand the culture or what is being said or the intention behind it, it can be easily misunderstood. But just going back to the slang, that Jake got.
Mhm.
But when you're going down the list, there's a couple of them. Achutar, like I never heard that word before, right? I agarrar. I mean that one, yeah, we know that one. When you go down, alote, which means low key, you know, I never heard of that one. Like a lot of these words down in this list are like things that I never even heard of.
Mhm.
Altiro, you know, um, when you go down to B, bacan, that means great. Like that's a whole different word in Spanish. Bajon, a bummer, crisis, right? So it just keeps going on. There's a whole list of slang terms that Jake uses over there that's different than the regular Spanish.
Mm. Ah, heavy. Is there any more on this you wanted?
That was pretty much it.
All right. Ah, you want me to
Well,
anything else?
Nah.
you want to go back
You
to
sure I got everything you want?
oh yeah, I still got a couple more things to bring out.
Okay, Con, you got it.
Uh, Con. Can you bring out Baba Kusha, that article? It's IWGIA org.
Yep, I got you.
Um, goes into a little bit of the history as well. Because Jake, it just goes into how Jake was pretty much subdued and how that land was taken over really by Esau, at least Argentina. So it says right here, indigenous peoples of indigenous peoples in Argentina. It says their territories expropriated over decades and their chiefs military defeated. The indigenous nations were incorporated as subjugated peoples and insecure occupier of their own lands. It says they were forced to adopt a foreign
Damn.
religion and a way of life, right? What's that scripture in Deuteronomy 28? I believe it's 64, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe. You shall
Uh,
serve other idols you haven't known, even wood and stone.
yeah,
You
I
know,
had that earlier, but you made me think of another one. You want? Could you grab that one? I got one. I'm trying to find at the moment.
uh,
Um,
but reading on, it says their autonomous social economic systems were destroyed, and ever since they have been subordinated to the process of capitalist expansion and contraction, despite the fact that their food security depends more on hunting, fishing, gathering, and small crop growing in the north, and sheep and cattle rearing in the south. So yeah,
all right, so real quick, you said Deuteronomy 28 and 64.
I
All
believe
right, so I
so.
got yeah. Deuteronomy 28 and 64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, neither uh which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Right. So uh, again, just Jay being indoctrinated or forced to worship that cross. You know, like it says, wood and stone. I know we brought this out for Judah, meaning Islam and Christianity, right? And that Christianity was forced upon, especially northern tribes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty much forced to worship that cross. We're first forced to kneel down and take on Catholicism, right? But again, this just goes to show, man, just adding more and more points to the fact that this goes back to the tribes, man. Like the
Right.
brother Yuan brought out, hey, the spirit bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High, man.
Mm-hmm. Because these devils, like we went into earlier, they saw that land was goodly, it was rich, so they wanted it, man. All right. So this, as feeding what we just read in this paragraph, this is showing you that once again, same people that oppressed you so-called blacks and Northern and Native Americans. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Now, that other article we went into dealing with the slavery, all right, this shows you that Esau had the power to go and take over the you Argentinians and you Chileans, man. All right.
Mhm.
Verse 2, and they covet fields and take them by violence, what we just said, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And that's what we just read. Like was highlighted, the territories expropriated or appropriated, how you say that word, over decades, and their chief military defeated the indigenous nations were incorporated as a subjugated peoples and insecure occupiers of their lands. They were forced to adopt a foreign religion and way of life. That's exactly what we just read. All right, for you, new listeners, all right, that might even be from this region, man. This is why, all right, your ancestors were taken down, okay, because this curse was going to befall you, man. All right, Esau coveted your land, and that's why they took y'all over, man. All right, and
Mhm.
made you, pretty much forget your old way of life and learn his, which is like you said, that damn that Catholicism Christianity bullshit, man.
Mhm. Con. You know, and reading on, it says many Argentinians believe there are no indigenous people in their country, either because the majority have died out or on the verge of doing so, or because their descendants were assimilated into Western civilization long ago and they now live like any other citizen. So, yeah, because as we read in some of the previous articles, the indigenous people, they were pushed all the way south in Chile, you know, close to the Patagonias. So pretty much they were like pretty much what's that word um exiled into like further down south. So that whole Argentinian land that was once filled with pretty much belonged to Naphtali. A lot of Naphtalites ain't there no more. It's very few.
Mm.
But continuing on, it says generalized stereotypes have forced many indigenous people to defensively hide their identity in order to avoid being subjugated to racial discrimination, and that's going on now over there in Argentina. That's why when you look at videos of Argentina, you don't see a lot of indigenous people or Jake or people that look like Jake over there. There's a lot of Edomite looking people over there because there's nothing but Edomites over there right now.
I got a
Very
precept.
few. Come on, you got it.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 41. It says, "Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people." And we pretty much talking about assimilation, and that's pretty much what happened to Jake. Back in those times was Hellenization. You see, pretty much this is just another form of Hellenization 2.0, because it said when they went into like they have a Western mindset, they don't really have any more indigenous people, so to speak, because everybody pretty much was assimilated. You know,
Right. Con.
Mm-hmm.
And it says at the latter
But
part right here. Oh, Salaki, you gonna say something?
nah, go ahead.
Con. It says, even so, the use of pejorative terms. I wonder what that word even means.
I got you.
Pejorative. It says expressing contempt or disapproval. Okay, so it says, even so, the use of pejorative terms likening the indigenous to lazy, idle, dirty, ignorant, and savage are common in everyday language. So, hey, just going back to the point of calling pretty much Jake became a proverb and a byword, man. And that's common, over there in that region to call people Indio, and that's a derogatory term over there. If you call somebody Indio, man, you're liable to fight over there
Mm-hmm.
because, like, just going back to Christianity and Catholicism, a lot of those Jakes that were assimilated, they want to be like Esau.
Mm-hmm.
That just goes back to the curses. But that was pretty much it on this article. Um, I guess it's still there's one more I just wanted to bring out. It's called Travel Noir, one of the articles. But this one pretty much goes into how Judah was also in that region as well as slaves. So just going back to that, I believe y'all brothers brought it out, how Judah and Ephraim were oppressed together.
Con.
Because really Judah was scattered everywhere. Really, all the tribes were scattered everywhere, but we see a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
scattering is more obvious with Judah based on their color, the complexion of their skin. But they were pretty much scattered all around Brazil, Argentina, Mexico,
yeah.
everywhere.
You got a lot of like you said, you got a lot of Judites in Brazil. Because like you got a lot of them that ultimately made the martial art called Angola, which is like a pre uh pretty much what Capoeira came from, but pretty much Jake or Judah in that area, I believe they pretty much made that form over there. So pretty much it's tying into how Judah was scattered, and down in that area.
Yeah.
Uh, this is
You want to read something?
yeah, I'll read it. This is from travelnoir.com. It says Black Genocide, the true history of the whitening of Argentina. So it says the striking metamorphosis Argentina has become synonymous with whiteness in South America. The country reported a mere 0.365% of its population as Afro-Argentine in the 2010 census. Less than 2 centuries ago, Black individuals comprised over a third of Argentina's population in 1800. So that's a drastic difference in
Right.
just 2 centuries. But it says
Yeah.
Argentina's tumultuous journey from a diverse Afro-Argentine enclave to its current status as one of the whitest nations of the continent. Look at that, one of the whitest nations of on the continent, and that's true. Over there in Argentina, uh, I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was Issachar who said it, or it might have been um, Naphtali. Pretty much, they say that they say that Argentina is pretty much a white country. They call them gringos.
Right. And if I can add to you, this is why you have a lot of Jake that come into the truth when it comes down to the tribe. They don't really accept, the Northern Kingdom tribe that look like so-called whites because this type of information is it made known unto them. But this is why, like we read earlier in Romans 8 and 16, it's the spirit that bears witness because hey, Jake is the salt of the earth, as I keep mentioning. Matter of fact, I keep bringing that. Can somebody grab that real quick?
Con. This is
Because, hey, go ahead.
Matthew. It's in Matthew the 5th chapter, right?
I believe so. Yeah, 5 and 13. I want to say.
God, this is Matthew Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13. It says, "Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth
Right,
good for nothing." Keep going.
right. Yeah, I mean that was the point, but yeah, that was it. Just said we're the salt of the earth. We are what give the world flavor. Now, for all you black only Israelites out there that refuse to accept the Northern Kingdom as as part of the tribes, they fall into this, man. All right. Now, I'm not really familiar as far as outside of sports, but just look at the few names that come. When you look up famous Argentinians, you got Lionel Messi. All right, because
Mhm.
Argentina is real big with the football, which it's sports. Jake run that, man. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so it's mainly football players, which I mean soccer players, what you call them football over there. You have different, actresses. You got I don't know why you gotta go so far down, but Manu Ginobili that played for the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
tennis players,
Mar-
it's different. Jake that go ahead up.
How about I say Marcos Maidana? That's Jake all day.
Right.
Come on, man. You can just see the flavor they got, man. So we're great wherever we are. So this shows you if they were Edomites, bro. You look at a Manu Ginobili, man. For brothers that watch basketball, that was a nigga all day, man. That nigga was
Right.
dunking on people. Hey, he's the one that made the Euro step where you see James Harden do. He was doing that way before James Harden was even, thought about, man. Jake pretty much starts trends. All right, Lionel Messi. You really didn't see no soccer players really get mentioned like that till Lionel Messi, started playing and going off, man. You know, so just showing you that hey, Jake coming off in all flavors, man. Real quick, another one. Get that where it said, "My people shall be as speckled birds."
God, this is Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 9. It says, "Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour."
Right. So it said that my people are the speckled bird because hey, Jake's gonna come dark as black, or they're gonna be light skinned, but that don't mean that they're white. They're Edomites. No, they're Jake. They just, their complexion it varies, but the spirit is what matters in them, man. And as we read earlier, as we're going through this, our histories they correlate, you know, the way we act they correlate. You know, you can get around a so-called Argentinian or Chilean. I guarantee you, it won't take them long to pretty much get hip, and they'll fit in right in with you, man, because we
Right.
are the same people.
Uh-huh.
They just on the other side of the world, man. But I don't know many myself, but I'm pretty sure all the tribes are gonna be able to vibe, man.
Mhm. That's right. And you see
Go
that,
ahead, Ishai.
you see that a lot in the history. Whenever Jake would just try to escape slavery, they'll go deal with Gad. Talking about Judah primarily. They'll go deal with Gad. They'll go deal with Issachar, deal with Reuben. You know, they'll always click up together for some reason. And why is that? Because they're the same people,
Mhm.
right? Like all this just makes sense, man.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna continue reading just a little bit more into this, and I'll be done. But it says this transformation exposes a past of strategic Afro-Argentine suppression, pretty much white supremacy. It says through government policies and historical amnesia. It says today many Argentinians hold the erroneous belief that Argentina neither participated in the slave trade nor witnessed the presence of Afro-Argentinians. So they're just trying to hide the history, just like they're trying to do over here in America, right? Changing
Man.
the history, changing things around, saying that, Judah wasn't a slave, they were indentured servants or some shit like that. Like,
Right.
this is just they're trying to
Hey,
whitewash history.
Mhm.
Another example you have is with Gad. All right, because when you look at so-called Native Americans today, you look at pretty much them looking like Edomites, but you have back you look on Google back then, you see very very few dark skinned so-called Gadites that know. All right, because a lot of so-called blacks today are Gadites, Reubenites, but they don't know. But when you will look on like the actual reservations within the tribes, you would see dark, so-called Native Americans, man. Or even in Mexico, you have the Afro Mexicanos,
Hmm.
they dark nigga looking like Mexicans with the curly hair,
Hmm.
But that's what I said. Hey, speckled bird, man. We come in all colors, man. We're like a crayon box, man.
Right.
But Esau, through his fucking trickery, would try to put that those differences between the tribes. Well, no, we ain't the same people. You white. That's why our people got to get past the skin color shit, man. That was a
Right.
concept that was created by an Edomite named Johann Blutenberg, man. Blutenbach,
Mhm.
Slovakia.
Con.
He pretty much uh, uh, characterize people by the color of their skin. I wanted to
Right.
get this though. This is Yashaya Isaiah chapter 25 and verse 7. It says, "And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations." And essentially, Esau, you know, he pretty much capitalizes on deception, and one of those deceptions will be that race being after the color, which ultimately that covering cast goes into the names and the different so-called colors that Esau has put on the different people in the world. There's no place of black. There's no place of white. That there isn't a such thing as an Asian. It would be Mawa Abba Moab. Yashar Allah. Edom. You know.
Con. Con. I got a precept as well. This is Hosea 7 and 8. It says, Ephraim, he had mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
when you turn a cake, it's shades of brown. Like it's a gradual change. Like Jake, like really Jake goes from being the darkest of darks to the lightest of lights. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Like Ephraim, is supposed to represent it's a representation of Northern Kingdom, right? Because Ephraim was the head of the northern tribes. But uh you can see it amongst even with Issachar. Sometimes some Issacharites look Chinese, some Issacharites look, like they're from what's it called? From India, you know, Puerto Rican. Some of them look like they come from India.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn, like all over the place, man. Jake is all over the place. It looked like any nation under the earth because we are mixed ourselves, amongst these heathen.
Mm-hmm.
Just adding to that point. But going back to this article, it says, today many Argentinians hold the erroneous belief that Argentina neither participated in the slave trade nor witnessed the presence of Afro-Argentinians, as if they had left the country naturally. Such misconceptions persist despite historical evidence. Former Argentine President Carlos Menem once shockingly declared, "Is Argentina, I mean, Slovakia, in Argentina, blacks do not exist. That is a Brazilian problem." Just showing you the man, just the flat out racism, these are the hatred these people have, man, towards our people.
Mm-hmm.
But it says the prevalent perception within and beyond Argentina is that of a predominantly white European society. Buenos Aires, the nation's capital, often earns the moniker Paris of Latin America in popular culture. However, this image is a product of the ugly racism that systemically erased Afro-Argentinians from the nation's fabric. And this is what I can stand sometimes about Northern Kingdom, man, because they take after these Edomites, and this is just pretty much again just going back to Esau's divide and conquer concept, right? To pretty much divide the tribes and make us believe a certain way to where we're going to continuously be divided. Because a lot of Northern Kingdom would take on this mindset, of being against the Southern tribes just because of the color of the skin. But continuing on a little bit more, It says the roots of the enigma trace back to the 16th century when the Spanish colonized Argentina. During this period, Spain relied heavily on enslaved Africans to sustain its colonies. Africans first set foot in the Rio de la Plata region, encompassing present day Buenos Aires, during the late 16th century. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Black Africans constituted up to half the population in some provinces. See, so hey, Jake and Ephraim, man, are pressed together. But it says slavery, albeit officially abolished in 1813 through the Ley de la Libertad de Vientres, which granted freedom to children of enslaved mothers, persisted unofficially into the 1850s. It says even after abolition, Afro-Argentines continue to experience systemic discrimination and exclusion from economic and political life. Coincidentally, this period marked the start of the precipitous decline of Argentina's black population. So that was pretty much it. Just adding to the point that we were all in this, in this under the curses together. At the same time that Jake was, as Judah was getting sent down, or the Southern Kingdom was getting sent down over there, being put into shackles and being forced into slavery. You also had Naphtali in that region being put into slavery at the same time, right? But hey, all this just to add to that point, man. We are the tribes.
Heavy. Hey, Romans 8:16, man.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit bear witness that we're the children of the Most High, man. Because when you look at all the tribes have atrocities that happened in their history. Did we bring that out earlier in Maccabees? What talks about the what nation has suffered like Israel?
Nah.
Somebody grab that real quick.
Uh,
This is where all the tribes can relate from because, like I said earlier, we all suffer from the curses, man. And it's all coincidentally from the same enemy, which is the Edomites, the so-called white man.
I'm still looking for it.
Okay.
I want to say it's First
2 and 10.
Maccabees. Yeah,
Hold on, let me get it.
whoever got
First
it.
Maccabees 2. Hold on, is it that one? Salakia.
Yeah, I got you. It's right here. Why not? That's not it.
Yes.
I got another one if you want it.
It might not be in there. Go ahead.
Con, this is Second Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 31. It says, "And thou that hast been author of all mischief against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of the Most High, for we suffer because of our sins."
You got it.
Con, I'm running back. It says, "And thou that hast been author of all mischief against the Hebrews," which ultimately, going into this, it's talking about the 12 tribes, because it's talking about Esau, Edom, and then, he had those that was confederate against him, they're not going to escape the hands of the Lord, they're going to reap of that just punishment. And it says, "For we suffer because of our sins." So when we look at each tribe, we suffer because we sinned against the Lord, and that's why we're in the predicament and the captivity that we're in.
Yeah, if I can't find this, it's cool. We ain't got to get it. But like I said, all the tribes have suffered a horrific history. So when is the justice going to be paid back for what was done to all of our people? All right, this is what the blessings that Yahweh Shem Yahushua, had let us know that we have to wait for. True justice is gonna be given to all the tribes for what has happened in our history, man. So this is why, hey, for you brothers and you sisters that might be of the tribe of Naphtali, man. All right, you Argentinians and Chileans, man. If you are driving with this word, then hey, you are an Israelite, man. Okay, and it's time for you to repent and return to the Heavenly Father and His Son before it's too late, man. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but that's pretty much it. Unless you got something else.
That was it.
No, I
All
ain't
right,
nothing.
so Yeah, so with that, we ain't gonna draw it out anymore, man. So we're gonna go ahead and end this lesson, Lord willing. It was edifying. So with that, we want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect. Until next time, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.